All right. We are on. So Ashley, how's your day going?
Oh, it's pretty good. How about you? It was pretty sunny here for a while, but now
Here too.
it's getting kind of gloomy. But no, it's 6 o'clock here, so
Yeah. It's only 3 here, obviously, and it was very rainy this morning. But then it was sunny for a little while, and I took the opportunity and walked 2 miles. I try to do 5 miles a day minimum walking, or maybe a little jogging.
yeah. That's good. That's good.
So is this your last week at the private school for the year? Are you 12 months?
No, we've been the students have been out for since the third week of May.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, we
Oh,
finished pretty early compared to everybody else.
okay.
So yeah, they've been gone. They've already been gone. Teachers have been gone. You
Hmm.
know, we've been trying to have a summer.
Oh, nice. So as a student development coordinator, you don't work year round?
Officially, I don't work year round. Next year, I'll be moving into the role of director of student development. Uh,
Oh,
so
congratulations.
thank you very much. So officially, on in a typical year, I
Hmm.
will, I will have students in the summer, and I'll be traveling with students.
Right,
Well, technically, I'm not necessarily at the job working, but I'm still working because I'm with students. You know what I mean?
right.
Traveling with them. So.
How many years has it been since you've had a summer where you haven't traveled?
11 years since I haven't had
Mm.
a summer that I haven't traveled. Yeah,
Oh my
that is
goodness.
very strange. So, you know, not traveling gives you the opportunity to kind of rest and relax and kind of soak it all in.
Hmm.
Kick your feet up, put on some Netflix and just, veg out. But when you're traveling, like you do get a chance to relax. That is true. But um, whether I'm traveling with, a big group of, adults or, a small group of students, it's still a lot of work and then not necessarily the same type of relaxing that you can get when you're just home.
Yeah. So, so you work at a private school. What are some pros and positives and joys of working at a private school? Why should teachers consider working at a private school versus a public school?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, of course, to each his own, their own. Um, I'll just give you my experience, right? And so, you may find that to be valuable or not, but the autonomy that I instantly got from working, signing up at an independent school was, life changing, right?
Mm,
Um, Oftentimes when I was working in the public school, like we just had the standards.
mm-hmm.
You had your scope and sequence. You had your your curriculum, whether that be your textbooks or any of your consumables or your any of your manipulatives or whatever. Like that's what you had to teach. That's what you had. And many people do go outside of that and are creative and all, but you're still in a box, right? But for me, from moment one, I was able to teach what I wanted to teach. Like we had um, we have what we call a trajectory, and that trajectory tells us, what do we want our students to learn in, any given subject. So what I taught mostly was social studies. So in social studies, what do we want our students to learn from kindergarten to 12th grade? So this is
Mm-hmm.
what we want them to know. So we had our trajectory, and then we were able to kind of, use that trajectory and, teach how we wanted, teach, from a perspective, which is, very important for me, the perspective of the lesser known, the voiceless and typical curriculum. And so I was able to give students a different perspective, which for me, is very valuable because, if I'm in the public school and I'm teaching, World War I or World War II, the Civil War or whatever, they're going to be tested on that content later. And so I got to make sure I get the content that they're going to be tested on. Right. And it wasn't necessarily I taught to the test because I didn't, but I still had to teach what they're going to be tested on instead of being able to, find out the whys of these things and the nuances behind, all of these, events that happened and all the people that were involved in these events. So that's one, the autonomy. The second thing about working at independent school, there are no two independent schools that are the same. You may have one independent school that has a position that is the director of development, or I'm sorry, I'll give you a different example. You may have one independent school that has a position that is dean of students, and another independent school that has a position of dean of students. And those two deans of students may have totally different job responsibilities
Mm.
because of where they are. One may be more geared towards student life and clubs and sports and curriculum. The other may be geared more towards discipline, you
Mhm.
know, and support to your assistant heads or whoever, your department chairs or division chairs. So I bring that back to the second thing that I really loved about being an independent school is the opportunity for growth.
Mm.
So at a public school, you just, you do your 3 years, you make sure you get your master's and your leadership position, your leadership certificate, and then you can go into leadership, right? It's not that way. There's no direct path in terms of leadership when it comes to independent schools. There are definitely some suggested pathways, but I think oftentimes people find themselves in different positions without necessarily having a direct course of events that led them that way.
Mhm.
Um, for me, my current position, it didn't exist 2 years, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And so I was able to kind of help craft that job responsibilities and that, and, kind of paint my own version of what this job can look like. So
How will your responsibilities grow from this year to next year? What will you be doing differently?
So at our school, to be a director, that means you are directly supervising someone. So that will be one
Mm.
thing. So I'll be directly supervising someone, and I'll be more over the admissions. So I am in admissions at the moment, but I will have someone who is going to be doing the direct detail work that comes with admissions. Um, all those things that have those deadlines and
Mhm.
dates and all that. And then I'll be able to kind of do big picture with
Mhm.
families and organizing different events, and also just doing
Mm.
the things that I currently do as well.
Mhm.
Some of that will have to actually, unfortunately, I would have to say goodbye to some of those things. Um, I was already asked to cut back on how much I travel because I may need to be in the building more often, but that's not
Mm.
that's not necessarily what I want to do, but
Well, you might have to with
yeah,
the
yeah.
new climate, the new situation with COVID, right? I mean,
Well, we definitely won't be traveling next year. We are not traveling next year at all. So there
next
you have
summer.
that. Well, we don't travel in the summer all the way. I mean, we don't just travel in the summer. We travel during the school
Okay.
year as well. So we travel, fall semester and spring semester, varied trips. So that includes college tours. That includes, third and fourth grade trips. That includes our international trips that happen in February, March, and April.
Mhm.
And then we do travel in the summer.
It's such a blessing to be able, for you, I think, to work at a school that does international travel. Now, is that something that was present with the school before you came to the school?
So the idea was there before I came to the school. I was already working at another school before, and I saw this position, which included a international travel component.
Mm.
And so since I had already done that, I was like, well, let me go back. The actual job description or um, the job description that I saw said we need a fifth grade teacher who is experienced in problem-based learning, and I think it said something about potentially have to travel internationally, something like that. And so I
Mm.
was like, whoa, I can do that. I've done that. I've done both of those, all those. So the idea was there. and then we did travel that first year. But like I said, one of the amazing things about about working at independent schools is being able to carve your own niche. And so because I had already traveled before, I was able to say, this is in my wheelhouse. Let me take over this. Let me be responsible for this. And so I, became responsible for the travel piece, the
Mm.
international travel piece. And then as years went on, I was able to maneuver myself in a fashion that I also became responsible for those teachers who were uh, leading domestic trips. So we come and we talk about, budgets, and,
Mhm.
we discuss those things. We discuss where to travel to. Um, we discuss what to do when we get to those destinations.
Mhm.
So I was able to kind of maneuver myself. So it wasn't there when I got there. And quite, interesting enough, our travel is a part of our curriculum. And so that was another way of me setting myself apart, was saying, hey, we're going to do this travel. That's going to be great, but we got to make it meaningful, because like I said, I was already traveling before. And
Mhm.
so I, wrote our social studies curriculum for our 5th and 6th grade students that included, alternating travel destinations. So one travel being to Spain, the other travel being to France. And so I wrote those two social studies curriculums so that they would actually coincide and be integrated with the travel, and the travel integrated with, within the curriculum as well.
How exciting is that for kids? Like, that's got to be a dream come true. Study Spain, go to Spain,
Yeah.
and actually experience it, or France or other places.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
it's even more fabulous for me, even though
Hmm.
I've been to Spain like, a dozen times. I get to go and experience it, for the first time with these students. And so as much as I know they get a lot out of it, I get a lot too. I get a
You
lot.
see it through their eyes, kind of, and
Yeah.
have that. Yeah. Wow. I think there's more private schools out there than people realize.
Yes, there are.
And that's really interesting. I had a question about the standards at
Yep.
private schools,
Yep.
the trajectories.
Yep.
Um, does the state, you're in Georgia, does the
Yep.
state of Georgia, how does it oversee, or what kind of accountability is there for private schools? Because of course in public schools there's a ton with
Yeah.
what you have to teach.
Right.
So is there any kind of requirements for private
So
schools?
we have a trajectory at my school. I don't know that other independent schools have trajectories. I don't know how they organize their curriculum and the flow of their curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So at my school, we have a trajectory. And because we're independent school, and people use the two names, independent and private, synonymously, right? So you can say
Okay.
independent school or private school, whatever. Um, but because we're independent school, we don't have to do anything or answer any type of mandate from the state.
Is a
So they,
trajectory required?
no, but
Okay.
it's not required. It's just best practices, right? To see
Right.
where we're going and how we're, making sure that we're vertically and horizontally aligned, right? Um, so we don't have to, get anything approved by, the state at all. Now, I will say, in order to make sure that we meet requirements for accreditation, there has to be some, there are things that have to be laid out and planned and organized. And I think the trajectory is one of those things, to say, what are your students learning? What are they learning in 5th grade? What are they learning in 6th grade? And then when you talk about high school, that's a whole nother ball game. Like when we talk about high school, we do have a trajectory, but then we're talking about issuing Carnegie units. And when you're issuing Carnegie units, there's a whole protocol that is required for high school, to make sure
Mm.
that high schoolers are getting what they need in order to pass and be ready for college. So yeah, but no, we don't have to do anything with the state at all.
So accreditation is kind of where the requirements come in then,
For sure.
right?
For sure.
Are there private school or independent schools that are non-accredited
Yes,
that
I
are
think.
allowed to function? Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I think it only, from my understanding, those things only become important when you're talking about a high school being
Mm,
accredited. You want your child to graduate from an accredited high school.
I
Uh,
see.
um, but I mean, I could be wrong. You know, it could be as equally important um, as middle school. But I do know several private schools that are not accredited by, you know, Advanced Ed, who we are accredited by,
Hmm. Hmm.
formerly known as SACS.
Mm.
And then there are other accrediting bodies too, that we're not accredited by, that we don't use. There are some for, you know, religious schools. There are some, um, you know, we are accredited by Advanced Ed and SACS, and then we also are part of the National Association of Independent Schools. And so there are
Mm.
other associations that other schools are a part of. Um,
Okay.
but I think when it comes to accreditation, and I could be wrong, so we may have to look that up and figure that out. But I think it's very pertinent and important when you're talking about high school, right? Because you
Mhm.
want your child to graduate from accredited high school. From a K-5, I'm not really sure how that works. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
maybe they have to be um,
Mm.
nationally accredited or regionally accredited.
Mhm.
Not sure.
I know a lot of Montessori independent schools, they only have K through 8 and don't have a high school component. And I could be wrong about that.
Right.
But the Montessori schools I have seen uh, in the United States are mostly K-8 from what I've seen.
Yeah, I've never
So
seen
that makes
high
sense.
school Montessori school. I've never seen
Mhm.
a high school
Mhm.
Montessori.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it even exists, to be
Yeah.
honest, but probably there's some schools with the philosophy of it integrated.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but I also wanted to ask you, what are some of the unique challenges and joys of working in administration
Yeah.
versus being in the classroom?
So I am um I love creating rapport with my students. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love being in the classroom with them. I love figuring out what makes them tick, what makes them laugh. I love, you know, learning about their day and their lives, you know, their families, their brothers, sisters, or dogs and pets. You know, I love
Mm-hmm.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Working in administration, I don't get a chance to actually um, partake in that as much as I would like to. So I have to be very conscious about doing that. Whereas if I'm in the classroom, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there. The students are there. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go out of my way. I'm already in the classroom with the students. In administration, I have to actually go down the hallway. I have to actually make a stop with these group of kids and talk to them. We're a small school. We're about 240 students total,
Mm-hmm.
K through 12. And so everybody knows everybody. So I know every child. Even this year we had our first graduates. We graduated 3 students this year. And I taught those 3 students in middle school. And I had clubs with them. And so I know everything that, you know, that a teacher could know about these, you know, these 3 kids. And I also taught 4th grade. And so the beauty of our school is I can walk down to the 4th grade class, stick my head in, be a part of a lesson, make fun of kids, you know, when, you know, they're being silly, or have them make fun of me when I'm being
Mm-hmm.
silly. I can do that and build that rapport. And then when they go upstairs to 5th grade, they already have that. So they know who Mr. Scott is. Um, I love that. The big challenge though is I don't get to do that as much. Um, and then being administration, I see a lot more parents, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, as an educator, as an educator, that's one of, I mean, I love my parents. I do. And part of my job though is, you know, being a student development coordinator is not just working with students. A lot of the time it's working with parents as well. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
the programs I create, a lot of the things that happen are centered around the family. So it's more, the family, the parents are more involved. So I get
Unique
to interact with
joys
them
and
a lot.
challenges.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
know, it's good though. You know, I welcome it. I think one of the saddest parts is I'm not in the classroom as much. And so when I see a cool lesson, or watching TV and I think about a cool lesson I could teach, I'm not teaching that anymore. Um, but I don't miss it that much.
Just enough, right? Just
Just
enough.
enough. Yeah, just
Yeah.
enough. Just
Yeah.
enough. And up until last year, everybody in my school up until last year was a classroom teacher. Like everyone taught something. And I did, even though I was out of the classroom. Technically, we all taught something. And so I taught 3 leadership classes. Our head of school taught philosophy. Our assistant head of school taught leadership. Our other administrators taught different things as well. Our um, maintenance person taught woodworking. Our
Cool.
facilities and safety person taught, he's a personal trainer. He taught weightlifting and conditioning and PE. So everyone taught something.
Mhm.
So I still had that. I was still able to kind of stroke that part of my life a little bit to get that reassurance and satisfaction. But now this year has progressed, and then so we've grown, and we've had to kind of change our schedule a little bit. So
Mhm.
that's not necessary for us to do that anymore. But I have so much presence in the school. Like we have 3 floors in our building, so I'm
Mm,
up and down the floors every single day, all day. Like I rarely sit down, and I interact with students every day, and that's a real joy for me.
definitely. Um, so how in the world of travel, how did you get started with your passion for travel? What sparked that?
So what sparked my passion for travel was I was going to take a student. I'm sorry, students in 4th grade, my first class out of the country. And
The
I
first class you ever taught?
my first class I ever taught was the
Wow.
best class I ever had. Actually, it was remarkable. Still in touch with those kids too. They just graduated college this year. Uh,
Wow.
so I'm still in touch with
Cool.
them. I have their phone numbers and I have their social media. I send them gifts for birthday and for their graduation. And um, one of
Mm.
them just moved back to Atlanta, and she just had her birthday yesterday. I'm still trying to encourage her to go back to school because she, doesn't know why she hasn't done it, and she's still wondering. But um,
Shout out. You hear that if you're listening.
right.
Get going.
So, um, so my first class, I wanted to do an international trip, but I wasn't able to do that. My first class, it was my first class ever, my first school. It was a 4th grade class, and my principal said no. I looped up with that class and taught them 5th grade, and asked again, and I was told I could not.
Mm.
The following year, there was a lot of change at the school, and I left and went to another school, and I taught 5th grade ELA that year and social studies, ELA writing, social studies. And I went to my principal at the new school, and he was like, sure, do it. And so that year, I took a group of students to Costa Rica that year. We went to Costa Rica. We, had an amazing time where we had 7 students and 1 parent and 1 other chaperone. So it was, the 7 students, it was 10 of us, and we
Mhm.
had an amazing time. And so I came back and planned my next trip, and then, the next one. And now, it's been, with students, I've traveled 20 times with students. Um, Without students, with other adults and other groups, I've done another 15 or 20 times. So that's how I
Yeah, and I want
started.
to, sorry.
No, no, that's okay. I was just saying that's how I started. I like to tell people I have now. Let me tell you, I really realize that I have a life that most people don't have. I am I am living my life, and I know that I am blessed to be able to live my life the way that I do. I have traveled to 37 different countries. I've been to over 90, I think like right now it's over 110 different international cities. I've been to every continent except Antarctica and Australia because they're so far away. And last year I traveled 13 times internationally. So I am extremely blessed to be able to do what I do. That does not, I do not forget that at all. But, being able to travel, it's a blessing. All I can say is it's a blessing, and I understand that. So yeah.
But did you travel as a kid? Like, I mean, my first year teaching, I didn't ask my principal if I could take my students to another country. How did that idea happen?
No, I'd never traveled. My first time on a plane was in my 30s.
Mm,
So I never traveled as a young kid. Um, I wanted to do something different for my students. I wanted to provide them an opportunity that they were not going to get anywhere else. And I
hmm
think that's been the philosophy of my life,
hmm
at least my adult life, is trying to fill the gaps where I see them. I may not be the expert within a given subject. I may not be the most experienced within a given a subject, but if I see that something is missing, uh, I am a gap filler, and I want to make sure that I'm there to plug the holes. And so I saw that there was a hole, um, and I felt like my students deserve the same opportunities as students in other parts of our city that were having those
hmm
opportunities. Um, and now was I afraid? Definitely afraid. It and to be honest with you, if I had known what I know now, Angelina, I probably would. I was so naive. I was so naive. I just thought I was going to get on this plane with these kids and it's going to be okay and all that. Um, I never, I didn't consider a lot of things that I now know that you definitely need to consider when you travel with kids. Um,
Like
but
what?
like making sure that all the allergies that kids have,
Mm,
making sure if they are anaphylactic that they have the EpiPen with them. They
mm,
have at least 3 EpiPens with them, so you
hmm
carry one and they carry 2. Um,
mm,
making sure that you have made provisions for dietary restrictions.
hmm
At my school we have about 20% of our students are Jewish students, and many of them don't eat pork.
hmm
So if I'm organizing a trip and pork is on the menu, then I've pretty much made a lot of kids hungry, uh,
Yeah.
you know, doing those things, and
hmm
there's a lot, making copies of passports so that if anything
hmm
happens, I have a copy of it,
hmm
if a kid loses it or,
hmm
you know, um,
Just all the things that might go wrong,
all of
kind
those
of
things.
preparing.
You don't know what you don't know until something happens and you're like, why didn't I know this? Like,
hmm hmm
trust me, I have learned the hard way.
And so you're a small business owner. You own a Berry Tours,
Yes.
and you started that in 2017.
Yes.
Okay.
April
Do you want to talk a
2017.
little bit? Sorry.
April 2017.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about what sparked that?
Yeah, so I was again traveling with students, and I was using another company, which is a really good company, and they provide educational tours for students. Now, their tours are the cheapest when you talk about other educational tour companies, but they're still really they were still really expensive for the students that I thought needed to have that opportunity, and I could not do anything about the price. I
Mm-hmm.
could ask for a discount here or there, $100, $200, but when you're talking about a $3,000 trip, I mean, thank you, but it doesn't really make that. I mean, 28. If I can pay 28, I can pay 3,000, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so my girlfriend, who's an amazing woman, shout out Aisha, she said, "You've been doing this for so long. Why don't you start your own? Um, just do your own thing." And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't do that. Like, what about liability? What about this? What about that? I gave her so many excuses, and she was like, "You've already been doing it. Like, you've already been doing it for someone else's company. Do it for yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And which is a testament to um, making sure you surround people around you who um, who believe in you as much as you believe in yourself, and also who believe in you when you don't always believe in yourself. I think it's really important that we surround ourselves with cheerleaders, and that's what being a teacher is about as well. So because of that, I started it, and the goal was to provide international travel for Black and Brown students at an affordable rate. And our profit margins are lower than others, but I get to decide what the price is going to be. I get to decide if I'm going to give someone a discount, a huge discount, or a small discount. I get to decide where we go. I get to decide how long we stay. I get to also decide what I want to do with that profit, which means I can reinvest that in the business or use that to as outreach and as a tool to create a bridge and mend, and not mend, but to build rapport with people who are in more need than I am. So that's what we do. We travel, we give back, we make impacts, we change lives, students' lives here, and also students' lives in other countries. And then we also travel with adults as well. And so, and if anybody travels with me, they understand that there is a certain expectation that travels with me that you need to have. And that is to leave all of your preconceived American ideas and notions behind. We're going to immerse ourselves in a culture. We're going to live amongst locals. We're going to eat local food. We're going to participate in local customs and festivals and traditions. We are going to actually live the life of a local for the 2 weeks that we're going to be there, right? Does that mean we don't stay in hotels? Sometimes we do. Does that mean we don't like do cool stuff and fun stuff? Yeah, we do. All of it is cool and fun. But I think it's very important for me because, less than half of this country has a passport, right? And then if we talk about the ones that actually use it, I don't know what that number is, but even the ones that have passport, everyone doesn't use it. If we talk about, Black and brown people, that number is even lower. So the idea that I get to travel internationally, already know that I'm blessed, and already know that I am privileged and I'm able to do something that most of the world cannot do. So then I have to ask myself, if this is a gift, this is a blessing, what am I going to do with it? So yeah, and then we just go around, we bless the world. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have something that you're grateful for and blessed to have, it's kind of like, well, maybe it's, good luck, or maybe I'm meant to use this as a tool to help other people make the world a better place.
For sure. We went to Guatemala. Was it last year? Last year. Went to Guatemala last year. And I had gone before. I've been to Guatemala several years. I went there to learn Spanish once. Stayed there for like 6 weeks to learn Spanish. I continue going back every year. And I went back, and my teacher, he's a friend of mine now. He saw the glasses that I had, and he said, "Where'd you get those?" And like, "These are really cool." I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Man, I wish I had glasses." Like, why don't you get them? He's like, "Oh, glasses here and San Pedro in Guatemala. I go to the town is called San Pedro. They're very expensive." And I said, "Well, how expensive?" He was like, "Oh, it's like $300 a pair." And
For
the average,
these kind of glasses, or like some?
yes, yes, the average salary in Guatemala is like 1,500 US a year. So he's like, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. But strange thing is, though, Angeline, is that the eye exam is like $5 US. It's really crazy. You can get an eye exam really easy. You can't afford it. You can't afford the glasses. So I bowed to him. Okay, we're gonna get you some glasses. Don't worry. So I went to this company called Zenni Optical, and I told him to go get an eye exam. He did. He took a picture of the prescription and emailed it to me. And then I just put it in Zenni's, database, ordered his glasses, came back. When I went to Guatemala the following year, he had glasses. He was overjoyed. Then the year after that, he asked me, could I do the same thing for his two brothers and his wife? And I did. And then the year after that, it was his mother and his dad and his mother-in-law. And his sister-in-law. So I did that. And then, and mind you, these glasses aren't really expensive, right? And so they're like single vision, it's going to be no more like $30, right?
Yeah.
And so after that, I was like, yeah, really good price. So after that, I was like, we need to make this bigger. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, it can't just be your family, Clemente. Like, and we're going to run out at some point, And so him and I devised a plan, and, we were able to give about 300 pair of glasses away in Guatemala for free, thanks
Wow.
to his work, and also thanks to Zenni Optical, because they donated $10,000 worth of glasses to us.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that still going, that project?
Yeah, well, I was supposed to be gone on June 20th. I'm supposed to be leaving to go to Guatemala with more glasses, but with the virus and all that, we didn't get a chance to do that. But yeah, we gave away about 300 pair of glasses, and to be able to do that and look at a mother's eyes when she first puts her glasses on and she's able to clearly see her daughters for the first time.
Wow. And
you see the tears in her eyes because she's so happy that, to see her beautiful daughters. That's kind of why we do it. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be able to use everything that we are giving to help others, so.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. You should, you got to definitely put that story on a Beery Tours website. Is it on there already, or?
No, it's not.
Somewhere. Or we'll just spread it with the podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna just spread it out. You know what I mean? Like, I think Zenni tweeted it once.
Okay.
And then I think I put it on social media.
It's stories like that inspire people to do more things like that, I think.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
What is your favorite place to travel to? Cliche question.
Yeah, but it's easy for me because I just spoke about it. Guatemala is my favorite place.
Okay.
Like I said, I travel there every year, twice a year. I live with the same family that I lived when the first time I was there. They call me son and brother and, primo, cousin. So I'm part of that family. I go there every year for the past 6 years, 5 or 6 years, and, stay in the same room, sleep in the same bed. It's my favorite place to travel because it allows me to be a part of another culture, while at the same time learn from other people, and then give them an opportunity to learn about me. Everything there is so genuine and so organic. When I first went down there, I was the first black man. I'm sorry, I was the only black man. It's a small town, so like 14,000 people in this town. I was the only black man there I was there for 6 weeks. For 5 weeks and 6 days, I was the only black man I saw. And on the last day, I was walking around before I left, and I saw this family there, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" But it allows me to actually combat a narrative, of pop culture media that they may see about black men and black culture. So that's important to me as well. But it is definitely my favorite place. Mama Kina is the mother of the house that I stay at, and she is. Everyone thinks their mom is amazing, and I certainly think my mom is amazing. But I promise you, if you ever meet Mama Kina, like you will find someone who rivals that of your own mom. Like the authentic care that she gives to everybody who comes into her house, it's overwhelming in the good sense. Like, then you're able to let down all your guards and just be yourself, even if you don't know Spanish. And when I first went, I knew not a lick of Spanish. So, but yeah, Guatemala is my favorite place to go. And
now you speak Spanish? You're able to hold a conversation and. Yep. Cool.
I know. I never thought I would, Spanish is hard. You know French, right? Don't you speak French?
No, I mean, I speak a little bit of German and a tiny bit of French. I'll put it that way. I took, German and French and Spanish and Japanese kind of on and off throughout school and throughout college. And I probably could speak a little bit of German with someone because that's the language I learned the most or studied the most, but I've never been to any German speaking countries or
Okay.
French speaking countries. I always found immersion is the best way to learn, and I haven't had the chance, so kind of gave up on it for a while.
Yeah. 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 I never thought I would learn another language. I always wanted to, but you know,
Mm.
that's another example of having someone behind you to
Hmm.
support you and push you.
Hmm. Definitely. Someone around you to challenge you and believe in you, maybe more than you believe in yourself, like
For
you
sure.
said.
For sure.
Um, I wanted to ask you about something you said back when we were talking about more about the teaching. You
Yeah.
said you still are in contact with your students you had that first year when you
Yep.
taught fourth grade,
Yep.
and you
26
have
students.
their hmm and you have their social media accounts and their phone numbers. And I know a lot of teachers in public education don't share your phone number.
Yeah.
Don't contact your students on social media.
Yeah.
With this distance learning, I actually got a Google Voice number
Hmm.
and found that texting parents was one of the best ways to reach families and
Yeah.
connect with students and families.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that at all? That bias of not.
Yeah. It's interesting because you hear horror stories of interaction between teachers and students, right? And
Mhm.
so your first instinct is self-preservation and make sure you don't fall into that situation. Not to say you're going to do anything, but fall into a situation where someone could say you did something when you didn't do it, right?
Mhm.
So I definitely, have had my guard up a lot. The atmosphere at my school is quite different. And I'm not necessarily saying this is good or bad. It just is what it is.
Mhm.
Every student's number who I have, their parents know I have their number.
Mhm.
Um, and when we're traveling, sometimes kids have free time, and so they're allowed to go on free time, but somebody has to have a phone that has international data. So I
Mhm.
have their phone, and they have to text me and check in, those type of things.
Mhm.
Um, I coach basketball as well. So a lot of
Mm.
times I'm coaching, asking, I go back and I coach girls basketball, send the girls a message about practice or about a meeting or whatever. Um, and then it runs the gamut. Like when we travel, just to give you a little background, when we travel, the kids always have to journal, and so they journal every day. I tell them to choose 4 days of their journaling. They turn that into me. I edit that, compile that with pictures that I've taken, they're taken, and put that into a photo book, and then I give it to them. They pay for it.
Mm.
Parents pay for it. But then I have kids who text me after they get their book and say, "Oh my God, Mr. Scott, this book is amazing. Like I was on page 29 and I can't remember. I remember when Mateo said this, or I remember when Clary fell down and we all laughed, or this dinner here was so much fun." And um, those things are beautiful. And I think, I want to make sure that people, know that you should be careful and you have to make sure that you protect yourself. I do. But I also think that we have also lost the ability to be compassionate with our students because of the fear of the lawsuit and the false accusations that potentially can happen.
Mhm.
Um, you know, so in my school is a little bit different. We text kids a lot of times. And then we're talking about older kids. Um, and that's in public school that may not be that may not be the thing that you should do.
Mhm.
But again, I know every student and every parent whose child's number that I have, they know that.
Mhm.
And if I ever have a conversation with their child, they know that as well. Um, I think it's important because a lot of my students have confided in me about things that they don't necessarily want to tell their parents, that they want help with, they want guidance with, they want advice about. Um, And then there's also times where I need to give them a little tough love and give them some unsolicited advice about certain things. Um, I may text them and say, hey, I need you to come downstairs. We're in school. I need you to come downstairs. We need to talk, or when you come into school and this morning, meet me in the office or something like that. And I don't suggest that for everybody. That's not necessarily what everyone should do, but I do stand on the fact that, the society that we're in right now has kind of stripped us of that ability to be a little more compassionate with our students outside of school. We're such a big part of their lives in school that it's just natural that it bleeds outside of school. My students that I have, who've already graduated, they text me all the time with book suggestions. Like I said, I send them birthday gifts and graduate. I went to, I went to 9 graduations 4 years ago when they graduated to see 22 of my students graduate. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
I went to 9 graduations. You can edit that part out.
I actually don't do editing hardly.
You don't do it?
Sometimes
Oh, okay.
I'll cut off the beginning or the end a little bit, but I'm trying not to edit between.
Yeah, you want it raw, huh? It's all
exactly.
good.
I think it's more honest.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I went to 9 graduations and I took off of work. The last 2 weeks of school, I was taking off work all the time because I was going to these graduations. Some graduations had 2 or 3 kids. Several graduations only had 1 child. You know what I mean? And when they graduated, I was there. When they moved into their dorm room in the colleges, I wasn't physically there, but I was there virtually, sending them a text message and sending them care packages. When they graduated from college, several of them have already graduated. Some are still waiting. I sent them graduation gifts and, cupcakes and those type of things. I don't know. I really do take my job serious when in terms of my role in a child's life. I'm 43, and that means I've been around for a while, and my oldest son is the age of my first class, and I do look at them and every child that I teach or come in contact with since them as my children. And that's very cliche as well to say, but it's truth, so.
I don't have any kids of my own, and so I do use that cliche a lot. My students are enough. They're my kids. But I think I am a negative influence I've had is, when I used to work in mental health, I'm 33, so it wasn't like a long time I worked in mental health. But my supervisor would always say, you're not their friend. You're paid to be here. Don't let them think you're their friend. Because that is misleading. You're paid to be here and they're not. And so I translated that into education as well. And I think that was, I think that was a negative influence. And I think I need to look at that again and be more vulnerable with students and,
I think what most kids are wanting is a rapport, right? They want to be able, they got to come to school, right? It's law. The parents say you got to go to school, you got to go to school. When they get here, they want to be able to enjoy their time here. And as human beings, how do we enjoy our time? It's with others. We love being around other people. And I think in the classroom, what I've been able to do so well is build genuine, real rapport with students. I can tell you, a class of 20 students and tell you what each student's passion is, why is their passion, how to get them motivated, how what to say to get them, to make them shut down. And I think it's important. Many times in my classrooms, we did not do anything remotely resembling any standards or trajectory or anything that was, could be considered traditional education.
Mm-hmm.
We just sat and talked, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's another thing about independent schools. Like if I just want to just branch off with something, if I just want to stop my lesson and, have a conversation, I can do that. Because for me, I want my students to be better humans. I don't want them to be good students. Like if you're a good student, okay, great. What happens when you get to a workplace?
Mm-hmm.
You're just a good student. Are you a good employee? You know what I mean? Like now you got to learn how to do that. No, I want you to be a good human, because if you're a good human, that's going to transfer and translate into everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've been able to do that extremely well. And, you know, I make a lot of sacrifices that many teachers may not make for different reasons, and that this not be, you know, faulting them for whatever. I choose my own path. You know, I choose to give up my spring breaks. I choose to give up my summers. I choose to give up that time that I would have by myself, and I'm going to be with kids. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be with kids. I'm going to show them the world. One, because I want them to see the world. I want to expand their knowledge. But, you know, what I find fascinating is what I've learned is through travel is how you learn about yourself. And I want to be there when students begin to learn about themselves so I can help navigate them through that. I want to make sure that, we are putting people into the world outside of our schools who are going to be positive changes in our world. And so I think it starts with a rapport in the classroom. You have to just get down on their level and get silly and make a fool of yourself, and talk about stuff that you really don't want to talk about. you
Mm-hmm.
know you learn about the latest social media app that you have no interest in, or the new crazy dance, or the new Pokemon card, or the new movie that's out. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to be able to show them that you are interested in them. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you do that, they will go to war for you, and they will make sure that um, they'll make sure that you feel fulfilled and acknowledged and valued.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you a quick story if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So that first year I was teaching, um, I have never told anybody this story. Those people know the
Oh.
story, or yeah, so it's exclusive. You know, um, second year when I was and I had looped with the that first class. So I taught them fourth grade, and then the next year I taught them fifth grade. So it was a charter school, and um, it was pretty good. It was a good charter school. I liked the philosophy. I loved the students. Um, but that second year, the management, had there are things that happen in management, and then and this particular management company had 5 schools in Georgia. So there are things that happen in management that I didn't agree on, and needless to say, I didn't agree, and it wasn't appreciated, and I was told that my service was no longer needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I immediately emailed my parents and asked them to meet me. I think it was a Saturday. I met them at a park and let them know what was going on, and told them the entire story um, from my mouth, and told them I would not be their child's teacher anymore. And on Monday, which was the beginning of testing, um, none of my students came to school. None of them came. We had just learned about protesting, and we were in social studies. We had learned about protesting. We had learned about standing up for what you believe in. And ironically, we had talked about that. Like I was like, wow, that was very serendipitous. And they stood outside. This management company's office was in really close to where the school was. And for 2 days, they had protested outside. Bring Mr. Scott back. Um, and because I was an employee, they couldn't give them any information about why I was gone and that kind of stuff. So parents left there feeling empty. You know, none of those none of those kids finished at that school, and I'm really happy at that because, selfishly, it does make me feel loved and appreciated, but it also makes me feel good to know that they stood up for something that I didn't think was right. And so by extension, they didn't think it was right either.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
Wow,
yep,
that's
yep.
a story.
It is a story.
What month, like what portion of the school year was remaining when they started protesting or
It
started,
was during testing, so it was quite a bit of school left. They
Mhm,
tested twice at this school, so I think it was
mhm.
around December or January, something like that. Maybe
And the school year ended in,
May.
wow,
Yeah,
good for them.
yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
And what you were saying about learning the latest social media and dances and things, I have a less impactful story, but a story nonetheless. Boy, when I did a TikTok video during distance learning,
Are you on TikTok? Do you have a TikTok account?
I have one video because we started doing distance learning, and so the ASB, the Associated Student Body, did a spirit week under the direction of the ASB teacher, and shout out to Chelsea Lanson. But one of the days was TikTok Tuesday or something, and it was share a TikTok video, and teachers were encouraged to do it. So I downloaded TikTok and signed up for it just for that. Did a little dance, and boy, the kids went bananas. you know I'm on the Zoom with them every week, and one of the Zoom classes, the kids are like, Mrs. Hood, we saw your TikTok. It was great. I never appreciated the power of that.
Yeah, I remember going down to our high school. Our lower level is where our high school students are, and during breaks they'll be doing TikToks, and I'll just jump in and like, come on, Mr. Scott, come on, come on, come on, come on. So ushering me in to do TikToks and all that. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and it's hard because they want to do it. They're not supposed to be on their phones during class, even if
Yeah,
it's free time. So you try to do it
yeah.
before, after school, and the rules. And
Trying
yeah.
to follow the rules.
Yep. So, what is, speaking of making sacrifices as a teacher and as a administrator in your school, what does your kind of self-care routine consist of? How do you stay inspired and focused and stay your best self with kids?
I think for me, travel is my self-care.
Mhm.
Like I said, I traveled last year like 13 times internationally.
Mm.
And so that's really important for me. Um, I like to joke around when I'm not on a plane. I'm counting down the days till I'm on the plane.
Mm.
I've been counting a little too long right now, but um, so for me, that's very important. And then I just like to veg, like because I do, we do as teachers, we do so much reading and so much professional development and so much
Mhm.
improving in our profession that we don't get a lot of downtime. And so for me, it's really important that I just, kind of veg. I love audiobooks.
Mm.
I love listening to audiobooks. It helps me um, to kind of relax. And, I listen to fiction and nonfiction. I listen
Mm.
to historical and everything, all of it.
Mm.
That allows me to actually absorb knowledge. And without having to, sometimes when you're reading, you have to make sure that well, for me, I don't know how everybody else learns, but for me, I got to be in a quiet place, nobody, no TV, no, not like leave me alone so I can read.
Mm.
So that doesn't always happen, but I can go for a walk and put my headphones on and listen to a book with the dogs. And, I do that quite often, or if I'm in the car, or then again, if I'm just cleaning in the house, I
Mhm.
actually love cleaning now because, um, you know,
Right?
I take my time cleaning now. Like I go clean the kitchen and, take my time, take out an hour to clean the kitchen, but then I've listened to a whole book, you
Mhm.
know, at least a couple of chapters. So I do, that's kind of what I like. I love languages as well. Um, I do a lot of Skyping with people in Spanish-speaking countries, friends of mine that I know, to practice my Spanish, figure out what's going on with them, how they're doing. I that also allows me to kind of recenter myself. Um, this is gonna maybe sound redundant again, but I think part of me is, I realize that we're in this universe, and then we're on this huge Earth, and then we're on this gigantic continent, and then I'm in this big state, in this big city, in this little neighborhood, in this little house. I know I'm very insignificant in the grand scheme of things,
Mhm.
um, but being able to connect with people who are not in this country and other people, that kind of allows me to recenter and kind of reassess and organize what is important. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of people dealing with a lot of different things in the world, and again, I'm blessed, I'm privileged, and um, when I'm talking to some of my friends, you know it allows me to be able to um, help them, which in turns allows them to then be able to help other people.
Mhm.
And I think being able to pay it forward is very important. So that's kind of
Definitely.
that those type of things calm me. Those type of things make me feel at peace. Make me feel whole, I guess.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, I love video
Nice.
games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
um, haven't played some of the ones I love in a long time, but um, several on my phone I play a lot. I love Scrabble,
No.
word games. Yeah, so
My
I love.
mom loves Words with Friends. Do you do that?
I do words with friends as well. Yep, I love that as well. I do Scrabble and words with friends, and it takes up a lot of time.
Yeah. You and my mom would also connect on gardening. I
Yeah.
read on your bio on the school website
Hmm.
that you got a what was it, a master of
Uh,
school gardening?
I'm a school master gardener. So there's a master gardener program here in the state of Georgia through the University of Georgia Extension Office. And part of that master gardener program, they also have a program for school master gardener, and that program was designed to um, give teachers tools that they needed to be able to teach the concepts of gardening and caring for different animals and composting and
Mm.
pollinating and all those things into the actual standards, into the curriculum. And so I went through that program. I got a certification in school master gardener, and yeah, yeah.
Um, is that like a club that you do, or was
So
that when you were teaching?
yeah, it was at a previous school, and then
Mm.
we were able, part of the requirements of the program to actually graduate. You fulfilled your portion, and then you had to go back to your school and implement certain things at your school. And you came back, and so my partner and I, we were so gung ho. We did our stuff faster than anybody has done in the history of the program. We were just so gung ho about it. We went back. We created a team of teachers. Him and I being, the two co-leaders of those teams, and then a team of students as well. And then we were able to, in this, suburban school, able to create about 10 raised beds in our school, that included two herb gardens, and the rest were vegetable gardens in those raised beds. We created a shade garden and a bog garden.
Mm.
Um, then we also did a monarch way station where the monarchs stopped on their way down to Mexico. We did
Cool.
a pollinator garden as well, where you see all the pollinators, just doing their thing. And then
Mhm.
we uh, siphoned off an area in the school where we were able to bring in some chickens as well.
Mm.
We had 6 hens and a rooster. We were able to share the eggs that we had, which is about anywhere between you know 18 to like 20 eggs a week, something like that, with faculty and staff and students. We were able to share our garden harvest with faculty, staff, and students.
Mm.
Um, we were able to teach from the garden as well.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't teach science, but I was able to be inside several of those science classes, and we talked about you know, biology and chickens and how they work and eggs and, you know, candling an egg and how long it takes for an chicken egg to hatch and incubation. And then we were able to get baby chicks and all that kind of stuff, you know, the
Wow.
entire process. So yeah, I got my that certification through University of Georgia, and it has served me very well. I don't necessarily use it as much now. When I moved into the house that I'm in now, I was really excited, but in our backyard it's so shady, I can't plant anything out there.
Oh.
Um, and then I've been negotiating with my girlfriend to allow me to put something in the front yard, but she, you know, hasn't succumbed yet. So
Yeah, we would like to. We moved into our house last summer. We moved to the southwestern side of Washington State from the southeastern side of Washington State, and we would like to have our own vegetable garden one of these days. Haven't done it yet, but I mean, that's definitely a benefit of having space to grow things. But even if you don't, there's community gardens.
yeah, yeah,
My friend who lives in an apartment back in southeastern Washington, she has a community garden she walks to and tends and gets vegetables from. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can do it. 90% of the garden is the soil. So get
mhm,
just make sure you got good soil and you got
mhm,
your green thumb.
mm. I definitely have no green thumb.
It's
My
really
husband
easy.
does.
Just need good soil. That thumb will turn green quickly.
So, how has, here's a question I haven't totally asked you. I know we talked about it the other day, but how has COVID affected you as a small business owner?
Oh wow. I was just before we began talking, I was just, you know, calculating some numbers for the
Mhm,
PPP. So still trying to get all that stuff in order. Um, I I tried to apply before, and several lenders were not lending anymore. So I found another lender now. But for me, I had to cancel 7 trips this year, um, and those trips, you know, several of them were already fully paid for.
mhm,
Several were not. They just had deposits, and I secured, you know, lodging or, you know,
mhm,
transportation or whatever. But I had to give, you know, a huge chunk of money back. Um, and so, you know, it wasn't a big deal because that's just what you have to do. And, you know, had the business been my only source of income, I would have been really struggling.
mhm,
Um, but because it is not my only source of income, um, it made it much easier to make the determination that I didn't have to go by, you know, the policies and procedures in my terms and conditions, and I could just, you know, do the human thing and give people back their money. You know,
mhm,
minus a deposit, minus the amount that I could not get back.
mhm,
Um, but you know, how else has it affected? You know, we were supposed to bring another 300 glasses back to Guatemala this year.
mhm,
I have a storage in my backyard with um, about 8 suitcases
mhm,
of clothing items that I was taking to Cuba this year that are still there that people, you know, desperately need. We're supposed to go back to we're supposed to go to Rwanda this year, and you know, I have supplies there that we're supposed to, you know, give out in school supplies for
mhm,
students, and um, iPads that we're going to donate as well. Um, you know, there are people who count on me coming, and I know I'm only one person with, a small group. You know, my largest group I travel with maybe like 30 people, maybe on my personal group, but for traveling with the school, it may be 45, 50. Um, but there are people who kind of depend on me coming every year to certain places. That's their livelihood. And
mhm,
while I don't necessarily feel guilty that I can't come because it's not my fault, I feel bad that I can't come because I know how bad. Um, I know the impact that I make when I go to certain places. Um, I know that when I go someplace, my presence and the presence of my group is sorely missed when we're gone. And that is on several different levels. That's economically, that's socially, that's spiritually. And so that's, you say, how has it impacted me? Like, it's impacted me in that sense, that it's impacted, excuse me, it impacted the people that have waited a whole year for me
Mhm.
to visit. Um, but we'll travel again. I'm very optimistic. It's always half
Definitely.
full, never half empty.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure things won't ever return to total normalcy as
Yeah,
we've been affected, irrevocably by
yeah,
this situation. But I'm confident I will get to Europe
yeah,
eventually
yeah,
and
yeah.
enjoy it.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Um,
They're
yeah.
gonna be they're gonna be screaming for tourism in a while. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you can't have cities, cities that are completely dependent on tourism.
Mhm.
That they're not going to survive. So they're going to be really asking for it to come back. There are some countries now that are, that are paying for your lodging if you come and visit. There are some
Mm,
countries that are paying for your, some countries that are requiring you to have a COVID test once you get there, but they're going to pay for it.
mm,
There are some countries that will rent you a car, if you travel to their countries. There are different perks that certain countries are doing right now in order to kind of boost up that tourism arm. So yeah, I
good
have
to
all
know.
confidence that it will come back to normal, get back to some resemblance of normalcy. But when, I have no idea. I don't anticipate our school to travel at all next year. So
Mhm,
I don't know if I would do any personal traveling. I'm not sure.
mhm. And do you know yet if your school will be in person in the fall?
We're planning for a person. We're planning two options. One would be completely in person, and I'm sorry, three options. So one would be completely in person. The other would be completely online, and the third option would be in person with parents um, having the option of having their child be online.
Mm.
So I guess that first option would be the same. Like, first option would be the parents could have their kids be online as well. So
And in Washington, we're anticipating we'll all wear masks at school in the fall. Is
yeah,
it the
we're saying the
same?
same thing. Yep, we all wear masks. I mean, there right now we're we met last week to strategize about what we're going to do. But hand sanitizer stations are going up around the building.
Mm,
The touchless thermometers are
mhm,
being ordered.
mhm,
We have completely moved around our entire building. So we once had um, grades 5 and 8. We're going to be on our third floor. We're on our third floor. Grades um, K through 4 was on our second floor, and grades high school was on our first floor. And so, but now we've completely, because of the size of our classrooms, and in our school we only have 12 kids in every classroom.
mhm.
So we have a max
Wow.
of 12 kids. But our classrooms are different sizes. And so we've had to determine what are our biggest size classes. So like for fifth grade, we have about 40 students for fifth grade.
Mm,
And so what class can hold fifth graders where they are not able to move? And so we have the two big classes that we have. We're going to be for fifth graders, we're going to be in that class.
mm,
And then now, who was in that class before, we got to move them,
mhm,
right? So
mhm.
everybody's going to be moved. Everybody's going to be in a different place. Um,
Wow.
we're planning for the fact that students don't move in the fall, that only teachers move.
Mm.
Um, no recess, no lunch program. Um, yeah, it's
Like they'll have to bring their own lunch and eat it in the classroom.
yes,
Mm.
yep.
Wow.
Every student will have their own cubby in the classroom. At least K through 4 will have their own cubby in the classroom.
Mm.
Because our classroom, our third and fourth graders had lockers, and so
Mm.
they won't be able to use those lockers because they're not going to be able to go out back and forth. So yeah, we're making a lot of different changes, and
Mhm.
I mean, it's scary in a little piece to think about how much of a change that we're making, but it's comforting to know that, as a school community, we're taking it serious, which it should be taken serious. So,
And you have the power to make the changes you need to make.
yep, for sure.
So I think I'll go to the wrap-up questions, if that's all right with you.
It's all right with me.
Let's see. I've never done the wrap-up questions before. I came up with 3 little wrap-up questions. I'll try to ask every guest.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
they're not too, we'll see how it goes. So the first one is
This may be the only time you use a wrap up question.
maybe, I don't know. You
No,
never know.
no,
Uh,
it'll work out fine.
what is a skill or quality you have that you are most proud of?
Oh, that's a good wrap up question. Um, um, hmm, skill, skill or quality. You know what? I Have you ever heard of Strength Finders?
What is it?
Strength Finders.
No.
It's kind of an assessment, seeing kind of
Oh,
what your strengths are. You should look it up. We do
yeah,
it for our school.
I
I
will.
won't bore you with it, but one of my strengths is WOO, WOO, winning others over, and
Hmm.
the other is includer. Um, at my school, we focus on our top 5 strengths. So we don't do traditional teacher evaluations. What we do is find out our top strengths are. We utilize those strengths in the classroom. We also make sure that everyone knows whose strengths are in what bucket, so that we know who to go to for
Oh,
help,
wow.
who can we ask for assistance, and then we make strength-based goals, and then we meet with our supervisors 4 times a year, talk about our progression on those goals. So all that to say, includer and woo are 2 of my 5, and woo is winning others over, and includer is what it sounds like. I like to make sure people around me are included um, in whatever social setting I'm in.
Hmm.
Um, so one of the strengths and our qualities that I am very much proud of is my ability to um, make others feel comfortable um, in situations. And when I say comfortable, I mean people who are new to an environment, right? Someone who's
Hmm.
just coming in, and they may be apprehensive or anxious. Additionally, I think that also leads into, for me, I am the friend where I'm the friend that people call for when they want someone to listen. And, I'm a very good listener. Um, I think um, I think it's a pertinent skill to have. I think that for me, for in my friend group, I think people understand that they can come to me with anything, and they can either just vent and then walk away, or they can, get advice, or they can do whatever. But the ability to listen to people, even when it is difficult, um, is one of my um, top skills. You asked for one, already giving you 2.
No, you're fine.
And I say the last one though is the ability to um, give the truth, whether that truth is difficult to say, or if I know that truth is going to be difficult for the other person to digest.
Mm.
Um, I do believe in being genuine and being able to. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm able to create such great rapport and relationship with people, because I'm able to just get down to the very core, um, basic level of just truth and honesty. So
Mhm.
there you go.
All right. Number 2. What is a skill or quality you plan to work on in the next
Oh
year?
gosh.
You knew it was coming.
So with Strengths Finders, um, Includer and Woo are both in the, they have like 32 of these skills, these strengths, and they're
Hmm.
all in different buckets. And so most of mine are in the bucket of relationship and strategic.
Hmm.
I have no strength in the executive or executing bucket. So that means I'm not really good at uh, remembering the small details of things. And so I'm getting better at that because I have now started to write things down and make sure that I record things so that I can come back to them later.
Mm.
You can imagine as a business owner when you don't remember if something happened, or if you gave somebody a refund, or if somebody was supposed to you gave somebody a discount. You're trying
Mhm.
to figure out. You're looking at your income, and you're like, I think I'm short. Like, why am I? But you didn't write down that this person only paid 500 when they were supposed to, when it was priced at 900. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
this kind of forgot. So I'm getting better um,
Mhm.
at getting getting better at the detail of life.
Nice. And in your new role, of course, that will be even more valuable
Yes,
and opportunity to fine tune that skill.
yes, for sure.
Have you ever done Myers Briggs?
If I have, it's been a long time, so I don't
Okay.
remember. I
It's the
think
one with,
I have with the letters, right?
yeah, the four
Uh,
letters.
yeah, so I have done it, but it's been
Mhm.
so long I don't remember it at all.
I'd be interested what your result would be if you take like an online test, and I'll do the Strength Finder test.
Yeah, you should do Strength Finders. It is
Mhm.
quite amazing. Yeah.
There's a lot of online free versions of MBTI that you can do, Myers-Briggs, and it gives you, the four preferences: introvert, extrovert, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving,
Yeah,
intuition, or sensing. I love it. But I'm going to check out that Strengths Finder.
you
And
definitely
then,
should.
mhm. And then lastly, where can people find out more about you?
Where can you find out more about me? You can find me on Instagram at Abiri Tours on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook at Abiri Tours. There's a private Facebook group called Travel with Abiri. This is for people who have traveled with me or want to travel with me.
Mhm.
And then I'm on Facebook as well under Ashley Dante Scott. So I don't turn down any friends. So believe in building the community. So that's it.
And don't forget your website,
And the website,
abiritours.com.
abiritours.com. Look at this. That's right. Abiritours.com. You can find us there. Check out the tours that we have there. Yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, you obviously care about your work and what you're doing. It was a pleasure talking to you more today.
Pleasure is mine as well.
Thank you so much for being a guest, and have a great one.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day in Washington. You have a little bit more than I do.
Night.
Nice.
Bye.